let's go to number 3 in the consensus rankings. It's Justin Jefferson, who finished as wide receiver 6 per game last year. It is a little deceiving because 2 guys who were ahead of him were Chris Godwin and Rashee Rice. And then he was basically tied with Puka Nacua and T. Higgins per game. So he was almost wide receiver 2 per game, Justin Jefferson. Unfortunately, it goes down as wide receiver 6 per game, but very, very close. Jamie, your thoughts on Justin Jefferson? I was surprised looking at the consensus rankings that he was wide receiver 2 personally, 3rd overall.
I mean, it's a wild card with the quarterback situation, right? Because J.J. McCarthy could be as good or better than Sam Darnold. I would hope he's better, for what I'm expecting for Jefferson and Addison, if there's no suspension, and Hawkinson, a year removed from his ACL. But there's clearly a scenario unfolding where McCarthy runs a little more, doesn't have the same success throwing the ball. Jefferson maybe doesn't have as much, high-end production as, let's say, CeeDee Lamb or Puka or Neighbors, any of those guys that are going to be right behind him. But then you go back to what Kevin O'Connell's quarterbacks have done. There's the Josh Dobbs games. There's the Nick Mullins games. There's the, obviously, Sam Darnold and the resurrection that he had there. And, clearly what he did with Kirk Cousins. So, you're hoping that J.J. McCarthy comes in and can keep this generational talent. And, starting to hear, I think somebody did an all-decade team, I think, or something recently. I don't remember what it was. He was on the same roster as Calvin Johnson and Randy Moss and Terrell Owens. He was the 4th receiver of that group. This kid is special. And,
it was the all-century team, the quarter-century team.
Quarter-century team,
yeah.
So he's amazing, and he's thrived with different quarterbacks, and he's thrived in the system to such a level that it's hard to overlook. So I have no problem if Lamb is drafted ahead of him. Lamb obviously was amazing 2023 with a healthy Dak Prescott, and I hope Dak is back. And however you think of George Pickens and maybe taking away from Lamb, I go back and forth with those 2 guys myself. So I haven't really completely finalized that Jefferson should be ahead of Lamb, but it's just so hard to, bet against what Justin Jefferson has done, what Kevin O'Connell's system has done and produced, and, what my expectations are for J.J. McCarthy, which is to come in and, kind of thrive in this system, even though he may not be the most polished prospect coming out of Michigan. Still a lot of questions to be answered about him as a passer, but I'm extremely confident in the coach, the system, and the player.
Well, I'll ask a broader question because we're already at 32 minutes, so I know we're not going to have time to go super in-depth on every one of these players. So if 1 and 2 are Bijan and Chase, in some order for you guys, and consensus it's Bijan 1, then Chase 2. You got Jefferson, Barkley, Lamb at 3, 4, 5. Jefferson had 102 catches last year, 103 catches last year. Barkley had 33 in 16 games. Lamb had 101 in 15 games. With Dak Prescott, just the Dak Prescott games, the first 7 games of the year before Prescott got hurt in the 8th game of the year, he's on pace for 109 catches. So, Dave, how do you kind of balance that, looking at Jefferson, Saquon, Lamb at 3, 4, 5, and going, might be a 70-catch difference here between the wide receivers and the running back?
In a full PPR league, you want to gravitate toward that. The only way a running back can come back from that is by scoring 10 more touchdowns or, having a ton more total yards than the wide receivers get, which is what Saquon did in his amazing year last year. But it's tough to fathom him doing that again. It's easy to see Justin Jefferson being a high volume receiver with good production. Jamar had 9 games last year with 20 plus PPR points. Jefferson had 8. You're counting on Jefferson to try and keep that going again this year with J.J. McCarthy. So far, the reports on McCarthy are positive. You read any beat reporter that's watched them in minicamp, and it's just minicamp. But McCarthy is slinging it. He's attacking the middle of the field. There's velocity on his throws. These are the things that we want to see. If he's got good command of this O'Connell offense, I'm kind of living where Jamie is on this. You trust the scheme. You trust the play caller. You hope the quarterback is at least on the level of Sam Darnold. We should see Justin Jefferson have another huge year. And so it feels a little safe to take him as the 3rd guy off the board. I don't need to take that risk with Saquon taking a big step back. We've seen that happen to him before when he's had a lot of work. When he's had over 350 touches in a year, his numbers regress the following year. We've seen that twice now from him. CeeDee Lamb with Pickens, man, there's going to be an effect there. We've seen Jefferson play with Jordan Addison being a red zone threat. Guess what? He's still awesome. So I'm happy to take Justin Jefferson third.